Just up front, yeah, we're
Okay.
that should be back and forth.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking a few minutes. We try to go around to the IRMA member cities every few years and talk about IRMA, answer any questions that anyone has. We know that councils change from time to time, and some are not as familiar with IRMA. There are 15 cities in IRMA. Yeah. Oh, I thought it would be, okay. I'm David Peterson. I'm the executive director of IRMA. And in the back is Jordan Rapp. He's one of our analysts. So he's the one when your city called and said, how many of this have we had or whatever, he's the one that digs out all that information. I apologize. IRMA was created in 1985, in September of 1985, is it under the Local Governmental Act. Insurance rates went outrageous, and so a group of cities got together and said, we want to create our own local government entity and start self-insuring. Draper joined IRMA in October of 1985. So you're coming up on 40 years as a member of IRMA. And we'll talk about some of the differences between IRMA and traditional insurance as we go a little bit farther. But the concept was we want to self-insure instead of having to pay the high and exorbitant rates and premiums if something goes terribly wrong in the insurance industry. I got good news or bad news, don't kill the messenger, but your property insurance this year or next year, and your auto are going through the roof because of all the wildfires in California and the hurricanes in North Carolina, South Carolina. And so what happens is, and I'll go briefly into it, but insurance is done through an underwriting concept, and if they lose a lot of money somewhere else, it impacts us here in Utah. IRMA is not that way because you contribute to a reserve that claims are paid out of. And so what happens is, if West Valley has a bunch of claims and they're a member city, it doesn't impact Draper at all, or Park City, or any of the other cities, because you only pay for your own claims. Unlike with traditional insurance, where you can have no claims at all, but if the rest of California or Oregon or whatever had a bad year and your insurer did, your premiums are going up.
Does that impact our next level of coverage?
It does impact our catastrophic. So IRMA is an accredited entity, and of course we're a governmental entity, but each member has a seat on our board of directors. So every member city does. So that's traditionally the city administrator. So Mike is your representative to the IRMA board, and they're the ones that make policy decisions about what direction they want to go as far as coverage with IRMA and so on. And you'll find that we have coverage that you can't get anywhere else. For instance, and I will say this if no one will repeat it to one of our excess insurers, but we have a general liability policy that has no aggregate. And I've never seen that before in my life. I spent 10 years as a managing director of risk management for all of the BYUs, and we have a $300 million aggregate. IRMA does not have one. And it's because of our great claims rate. 99.9% of our claims are within our own self-insured fund. And so we very seldom ever, while we do buy catastrophic policies with huge deductibles, we very seldom ever tap into a policy. 3 times in the 39-year history of IRMA. And that's a testament to us as cities and members doing all we can to reduce risk at the city level, rather than just do whatever and pay the claims.
Could you just briefly explain what aggregate means?
Aggregate, so all of your insurance policies, your personal lines, auto, and so on, you see where it says 100, 300 in liability. That means they'll pay 100 per claim and 300 maximum. So theoretically, if something went terribly wrong and you got in a car accident and 4 people in the other car died, you would not have enough coverage. We don't have an aggregate. We're at 5 million, whatever. So 5 million plus the self-insured retention, so $6 million per claim. And the reason we do that is because right now the state statutory cap limits are 3.37. So we have adequate funding within our self-insured retention and our excess or catastrophic policies. We're full service risk management. So we're not just claims and litigation. We always hear that when people say, well, who's IRMA? Well, they're our insurance company. Actually, we're not. You're your own insurance company. And so we administer the self-insured retention, and we're the ones that actually cut the check for the claim, and we're the ones that negotiate rates for legal counsel and all those kinds of things, but you don't pay for other members' claims, you only pay for your own, which is so unlike traditional insurance and underwriting. We provide all of these different things: education, claims litigation service, risk management training, loss control inspections, your police, fire, public works, they know about those. Jason comes out a couple times a year and goes over things where we see trends in municipal government where there are losses or claims. We inspect for those to see what the status is in Draper, and then work with public works, parks and rec, whoever that is, to reduce the potential for that risk exposure. We do risk assessment, risk analysis, and I'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute. Trying to be conscious of your time limitation. And risk consultation. You can call anytime and say, if we do this, is there any potential liability or whatever? And we get those calls a lot. Fortunately, you have Mike, who has a legal background, but you also have Pat, who's your risk manager. He has a really good background in risk management too. So we don't see as much from you as we do from some cities, but that's available to you, along with risk analytics. So there's a difference between a risk assessment, a risk analysis, and a risk management information system. And I won't go in depth, only to say that we use data, we don't speculate, and there's a difference between correlation and causation. And we only do causation. So there's a lot of things out there like, and I'm sure this will be interesting to everybody, but they say that smoking causes lung cancer. It's actually not correct. There is a correlation between the carcinogens of smoking and lung cancer. But there are people who smoke their entire lives and don't get lung cancer. So that's a correlation, not a causation. We only deal with causation stuff. The data shows this for sure 100% of the time. We use a bunch of resources that are available to us. So one of my examples is this, the BMI. How many of you have been and had a physical and your doctor told you you were not perfect and so on and so forth, right? Yeah, I don't want to go into that, but I don't know if you know the history of where the BMI came from. It was an 1874 science experiment by an astronomer.
There you go.
Right?
It's inaccurate.
It's way inaccurate. There's no difference between muscle mass and tissue. It can't even be extrapolated to the first standard deviation mathematically. That's how inaccurate it is, right? The U.S. government's been using it since 1980, and we still do. Here's a classic example of why it's flawed. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and I are the exact same height and weight. We are above the 34.3 BMI, considered morbidly obese. How many of you would raise your hand and say that The Rock is morbidly obese?
Is he here or not?
He's not here. And I don't even want your opinion about me, but nonetheless, he and I are identical as far as the BMI is. That's how flawed it is. You have another one here. This will be interesting to you. If we had more time, I would have you play the little game. But what are the top 5 causes of all accidents and fatalities across the country, universally, including Utah? Anybody know? Number 1? Distracted driving. Yeah, so I'll show you what they are. Distracted driving. And we only write 6% of citations for that. 88% of citations written in the state of Utah and nationally are actually written for speeding. Why? Because it's an easy ticket. They're trying to face speed laws. If it's 35 and you're going 36, you technically violated the law, right? But these are the top 5. Speeding is actually number 7. Now that's not to say that the faster you go, the more damage you cause if you do get in an accident, or the more potential for an injury. But legitimately, so what it does, it means if we go out and write a bunch of speeding tickets, but we're not writing a bunch of distracted driving ones, we're not gonna solve the problem. We're not gonna reduce our risk. But it's a national campaign. You see it everywhere.
Where's deer on there? Are they on the list of accidents?
Where's what?
Deer.
Deer.
Oh, it's,
They don't have
it doesn't even rank in the top 10.
Okay.
Doesn't even rank in the top 10. Probably because it's not a national trend, it's just a Utah
Okay.
and Wyoming
They don't
and
drive very often.
the Intermountain, yeah, the Intermountain West.
I'm sure, yeah.
My point simply is that we are focused on good data, not speculation. If I were to go through and hand this out and say, okay, what do you think the biggest risks to your cities are? Name the top 3. You might all come up with a different answer. We use data to show, based on losses, claims, lawsuits, and nationwide trends, what those are. You have a self-insured retention of $1 million. 99.9873% of our claims are all within that retention. So we only buy catastrophic, or what we call catastrophic, excess insurance coverage, meaning that mostly we just have a big reserve, and we pay the claims out of the reserve. You reimburse for that claim, and that's it. So the less number of claims you have, the less it costs you to participate. It really doesn't matter that if you have no claims, it doesn't cost you any more next year than it did last year to participate in IRMA. We have a $1 million deductible, and then these are the coverages that we have. Some of them are significant in that the average cyber risk claim right now is $2.3 million to resolve. We have $15 million worth of coverage. And what that means, and you can buy that independently. That is one of the advantages of IRMA. Because of what they call risk spread, they realize that not everybody in IRMA is going to have a $15 million claim or a $3 million claim every year, or maybe never. And so we're able to buy coverage that you can't buy independently as a municipality. As a matter of fact, the most you can buy single layer coverage of cyber risk as a governmental entity right now in the market is $5 million. That's it. So if your claim goes in excess of that, you're having to come up with the budget money to do it. We also have some additional coverage that IRMA just covers through our self-insured retention. We have land use, which you can't purchase. It's because of the magnitude of land use claims, no insurance company will sell you land use coverage anymore. It's out of the market. Drones, you have to buy an aviation policy, which means like you have a plane, and they're a minimum $1 million policy and a minimum $250,000 premium. They just have minimum whatever, but it's a drone. I mean, it could cause some damage, but it's not likely to cause a lot, right? Small transit, if you have a senior bus or a small transit, we cover that without you having to buy a transportation policy. And then special events. There are a lot of special events. If it's a short-term special event, a one-day or whatever, we just cover the liability on it, and you don't have to go out and buy another policy. We group purchase, which is why we're discounted. We're anywhere from 8% to 31% below the market, depending on the policy. And that's based on national underwriting criteria. So right now, because cyber is such an issue, we're 8% below the market. But we're 31% below the market in several other policies. We have coverage you can't buy on the market, and your premiums are not affected by losses on the self-insured retention, the first level. And we have a very, very high deductible, comparatively speaking. Most municipalities have 250 at the most, and we have $1 million. We do claims adjusting and management. That's part of being a member of IRMA. Discounted legal fees if we have to get outside counsel. We have an in-house counsel who does claims and litigation, but like most things, you don't want a heart surgeon to do your brain surgery. So sometimes we need to go outside for an attorney or legal counsel that specializes in a certain type of claim. One that's fairly common is law enforcement liability. It's very technical. And because it's usually filed under Title 18 of the US Code, there's some huge liability there because tort caps don't apply. It's a federal claim. It's a federal tort claim. So we've engaged some of the best attorneys in the state to handle those claims at a discounted rate. So marginally across the board, the hourly rate for attorneys on average in the state of Utah, according to the state bar, is $400 an hour. We have attorneys that operate anywhere from $225 to $375. So we're under that margin, which saves everybody money. And then we upfront those costs, so the city's not having to budget for it and try to figure out if you have a large claim and there's a lot of legal fees being generated. IRMA upfronts those, and the city just pays them back at non-interest. So the advantage to IRMA is member control. You are a member, and you can say what coverage you want IRMA to purchase or not purchase. You have a seat at the board, so policies are driven by our board of directors. We provide full service risk management. So we have some cities that, like Draper, that have a full-time risk manager. We have some that don't. Most of our cities only have one, but they have the resources of IRMA staff. So they don't have to have a risk management division. We have no general liability aggregate. I hate saying that out loud because I'm afraid eventually they're gonna know that we figured that out. We pull so large loss numbers is that 8% to 31% below market. We get discounted legal rates. You're not affected by what any other city does, you're only affected by you. So unlike traditional insurance underwriting, if West Valley has a terrible year, it doesn't impact Draper. If Draper has a terrible year, it doesn't impact West Valley. And then I talked about most of the rest of this. So that's the gist and the overview. Any questions that you have? Jordan has a small binder with a lot of this information and our contact information for every member of the council, and Mike will give you a couple extras if there's someone else on staff that would like it. I can tell you trending from the insurance industry, some of it will impact us, some of it won't. Auto is you're gonna see between 20 and 40% increases in your personal auto and commercial auto this year. The underwriters are already writing those policies. Property will go up 18%, it looks like. And we're finding there are less and less carriers that will take law enforcement liability coverage anymore because of some of the nuclear verdicts that are happening, where cities are being assessed 30, 40 million because of an incident related to use of force or an alleged civil rights violation. So those are kind of the trending things. Just so you know, IRMA is picky. You guys have been a member, like I said, since almost the beginning. We've had several other cities petition to become members of IRMA, and the boards looked on their claims history and their risk factors and said, no, thank you. We just use traditional insurance. We don't want to put the reserve at risk because you don't have a great claims history. We do occasionally take on a new member. There's one we're looking at right now. Last year, Park City became a member, and they've been great to work with. So we appreciate the relationship we have with staff here at Draper. Everybody's been great to work with, and it's been a long relationship, and we hope it'll continue that way. So thank you. Yeah.
One quick question. So is there anything that we can do to insulate ourselves against the fluctuations in the market?
It's something we're going to talk about at our summer conference, but so there are 3 tenets in risk pooling, and the last tenet in there is to reduce your reliance on traditional insurance. And of course we do up to $1 million, but as inflation goes, we either need to increase or not. So what's happened in 2021, cyber went through the roof. We were paying $65,000 a year for $10 million worth of coverage. We're now paying $550,000 a year for $15 million worth of coverage. you can see that it went up exponentially. If we were a little bit more funded, according to the actuaries, we could probably say, we'll take the first 2 million and they'll need to buy excess, which would drop that policy down, back down to about 65,000 a year. Our problem, of course, is that you also have other things on your budgets. So it's hard for me to go to the board and say, we need 7.25 million and then we can just get rid of cyber insurance. Because that means 15 member cities have to figure out how to come up with 7.25 million. And that's hard because there are a lot of competing interests in a budget. It's not as simple as just insurance. So, but that's kind of the two that I'm the most worried about are cyber and law enforcement liability. There were 30 carriers that covered law enforcement liability 5 years ago. There are now 6. What happens is a lot of them just get out of the market. They just say we can't afford a nuclear verdict. Luckily, we don't have those in Utah yet.
Thank you.
With that, thank you.
Next is the tree committee.
Appreciate your time.
Got tree committee report. Are you leading that out today?
I am.
Well, jump on up. It's your turn.
Let's get you set up here.
Presentation.
You work your magic.
Let me hear.
Okay, all right. Yes, so my name is David Cloward. I'm the chair of the Draper Tree Committee. And Michelle Coker is here with us as well. She's the vice chair. And Janet is the most tenured, long-term member of the committee, Janet Simonich. So she's kind of our tree expert. And I think that's it for those representing us tonight. So thank you very much for the time. I know you guys have been just really excited about this. You've been waiting with bated breath for the tree committee, right? It's been since you waited a long time. I think 2021 was the last time we presented this. I went through my presentations. So thank you for the opportunity. I know this is the old logo. I purposely left that logo because it's tree. And I didn't dare, replace it with the new logo. And our tagline has been kind of trees benefiting Draper for generations. And the reason is because we really want trees, truly, that will be there generations later, right? And we're really providing the benefits rather than just planting a tree because we have to plant a tree, because the spec calls for that. I'm not going to go through any of the details on this slide, but the benefits of trees are many. I hope we don't have to convince you of all the benefits that it provides for an urban environment that trees, provide. Our vision is that we will be able to have tree-lined streets, right? Have trees in parks and city entrances and new developments. Those are the things that we want to be involved in and the things that we're focused on and have been. And really the bottom line is we want to plant more trees in each of those areas. But one of the things we're going to focus on tonight is that we really want to achieve the highest ROI on the tree investment. The city has made a huge investment, in trees over all these years and continues to do so each year. And so we want to make sure that we get the right trees planted, and that those trees are planted correctly and maintained. And so these last 2 points are really important that we focus on. And then the other area that we focus on is education, both for assistance to the city as we bring projects we work together on, and also to the residents. And that really includes, we've been contributors to the zoning ordinances, codes, and we provide local scapes classes to the residents, and the street tree guide that guides for developers. This is just a picture that I love to show because when we talk about tree-lined streets, this is beautiful. This is Brigham City, here in Utah, and it makes a difference if you have the right foresight and trees will last generations. And that's an example of one. This is the Sandy City side of 13th East, and those trees I think are maintained by Sandy City. And I'll tell you why I'm showing the slides later, because we use these in some of our surveys. And this is the Draper entrance on 1300 East. I want to make sure that we understand this is not city maintained, right? This is not an issue of Rhett's team not doing their job. So, but you can see the difference that trees can make if it's done properly. We have Draper Days booth, and so we did a survey at Draper Days, and I'm going to show some of the results of that survey today. And we had like, I think 250 or so respondents to that, which is pretty dang good. And so it's, I think, statistically valid. 98.6% actually really care a lot about having tree-lined streets. So that is important, that you care. And that there's actually specifically the major thoroughfares. I'm not talking about neighborhoods. I'm talking about the major thoroughfares in our city. They really care about that, having those beautifully walked up trees there. Same thing with neighborhoods, though. This is one. Where's Fred? Fred's not here tonight, is he?
He's online.
He's online.
Oh, he's online. Hi, Fred. This is your neighborhood, Fred. With multi-generational trees. This is a perfect example of his neighborhood. This side has the trees. This is the same neighborhood where the trees ended. You can see over there, and the bottom. You can see the difference. And so the same thing. People went on the survey said 97% said, yeah, they really believe that trees really make a difference in the value of property and the desirability to live in that city. I want to talk about a little bit about this progress that we have made, and specifically I think in the last 8 to 10 years, we have made a lot more progress. And we've done things like the street tree guide and website for developers and residents, and so they actually know where to get this information. We don't have to be trying to push it out. We have to go and try and enforce it later. The city and the committee have had a great partnership on all the development plans. They bring those to us. We discuss about what should actually be included. Each of them is going very smoothly. It's nice. And we did new simplified and better tree-friendly landscaping codes as well. So we didn't have these diamond park, tree islands, in the middle of an island. Those trees will never survive there. Things like that we got rid of. And then we do the education. I talked about with the articles and classes, and continue to expand on that. And we now have Parks and Rec's conservation garden as well. City engineering, I think this is one of the biggest things actually that we've done together is, so thank you, is we adopted new planting specs. And that's critical because we would do projects like on 13th East or 138 South, and then trees get planted in road base. So they're never going to survive. And so we put new planting specs in place, and the first project we did, out in front of City Hall here, we replaced those trees. We put those specs in place. We inspected to make sure that they were actually overdug. We were not planting them in road base, and so that was huge. So we put that in place. We're trying to get community development to do the same thing for developers. And Marianne said today that there is a chance that we can do that with some upcoming zoning changes that you guys are looking at.
We'll set up a meeting to kind of talk.
Yes. So, and then one other great thing progress we've made is matching funding from the private sector. So Tree Utah worked with us on the project to plant trees. Now we get matched with double the funds. And we have residents that also have been contributing money. Someone gave us $10,000, at the end of last year, towards planting trees. And that was because of the Draper Days, And then community development, as we talked about. So, but the big question is, what do we need to do to achieve, the best ROI? And so, when we have trees that are planted by contractors in property, like I already talked about those situations, or in the front of City Hall, we have trees that are out there, not the ones that the new ones we planted, but the ones that have been there for over 20 years, and they're still about 2 inches in caliber. They should be this big by now, that particular species. So they just got planted in road base, essentially. And we're losing trees that we don't, because we don't have an arborist to be able to, and staff to be able to catch diseases early and get them treated. And we don't have staff to replace those trees. We barely have enough staff to try to remove them. And we have made significant investment in equipment, and we're using that equipment, but we're not by any means fully utilizing that equipment because we don't have an arborist. We also end up having to pay really a lot higher rates to have work done, like the trees were pruned at City Hall here last year. It cost us way more than it would have if we just did staff person, an arborist to do that. And they didn't do that great of a job either, because we had an arborist to be able to do it. So we have budgeted to plant trees, but that's our throttle. Our throttle right now on planting trees is not budget to plant them, even though we begged for budget in the past. It is now that we don't have staff to be able to properly maintain the trees. So we went out and reviewed neighboring cities of similar size and budget to see what are they doing. We also talked to outside groups like Tree Utah, and they said, after reviewing them, they all have arborists of our similar size, right, and similar budgets. And this monitoring committee, then here's our recommendation to try to get the best ROI. It's one big, small print to be able to add request an arborist. We know we're not going to talk about that here today because we know that's already on the agenda for another discussion. So, funding support, we talked about that a little bit about what we saw with other cities. The range was $17,000 to $125,000 for tree planting budget as well as arborists. And as I mentioned, Tree Utah, their observation was the cities that had dedicated arborists were the ones who were actually thriving, doing a good job at it. So I think we covered that already. And this, I want to cover this quickly before we end here. The residents, they want to see a greater allocation of funding that goes towards trees, and they're actually willing to pay more for trees. As I mentioned, one resident donated $10,000, but he said, I don't want to be used for maintenance or for this. I wanted to go for new plantings, in something that we all enjoy. This is the results of, Draper's plan for Parks and Rec, right? It was, I think, published in 2023, was it? And, the top ones were not, as I would have expected, like tennis court or pickleball or whatever. It was that they wanted to be able to have natural open spaces, improvements in existing parks, improving the natural open spaces, all things related to, all things that include trees. And even on the more paved trails, we'll talk about that in a second, because sometimes, trails look like this, and they're going to get used a lot less than if they look like that. And these aren't even trees that receive any water. These are just existing trees that were growing naturally. But as a result, people use those trails a lot more. And what we found from the survey was, 99% said that's what they want from those trails. And we found, you guys found in the city survey, that the majority are willing to pay some fees related to that. We wanted to do a $5 monthly fee, using part of that money for 2 trees or for trails that use part of it for trees. And that it was really only one group that wasn't willing to pay at least $5 per month, is what we saw in their survey results. And what we saw in our survey results were that 84% wanted more money allocated toward trees. Now, this is a little tricky because, they wanted more planting and maintenance go to trees, and then actually in the funding, 40% said, we would pay a fee, but we really think there actually should be more money allocated towards trees out of the existing budget. And then another 40%, 39% said, we would also pay additional fees on top of that. Like, for example, $5 a month, and some would be willing to pay, $10 to $20 per month. So, thank you. That's really what I wanted to cover tonight. Any questions, comments, whatever? Did I hit my time slot?
Good. You did great, man.
Good.
Any questions for Dave?
Okay. All right. Hopefully you'll take into consideration the other conversations on the quest. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate the opportunity to volunteer and serve you guys.
All right, the next item is a discussion on Draper Days, minus Ms. Chalbert. Who's doing that? Dave? Brett? Dave, who's doing that one? Brett?
Well, Jack.
Just want to give you an update on Draper Days. I'm going to cover just some of the entertainment and some of the tournament stuff. Wilkes is gonna do some of the park activities. Really just wanted to give you an overall update now that everything is mostly under contract. The main headliner, we've sent them back, we're just waiting for them to send them back to us. But spent a lot of time with Tracy and making sure everything's good. I've red lighted everything I thought of. So we're ready to go. I just wanted to make sure you knew. So if residents are asking you, or when it gets public, we haven't made it public yet, but we're getting ready to put out that notice. So just want to make sure you know for at least our 2 days of stage entertainment what we're still planning. So
I think it's out now, right?
what?
I think it's out now.
That's all right. It's going to be similar to some of the last few years of Draper Days. But Friday, we'll start with our local high school band, who's going to be Moon Juice. They won the local Corner Canyon High School Battle of the Band, so it's a great opportunity. They were so excited to be able to come play. So kind of tried to bring it, small town feel in a big city, but involve residents more. And then we'll have the Draper Idols from Wednesday night up at the amphitheater. Will be on the main stage at the park Friday night. We'll sing a few numbers each. The mayor will do a spiel and get the crowd rolling, and then we'll go right into the headliner for Saturday, who is the Groove Merchants. I just want to tell you, so the idea was to try and have a corporate cover band that everybody knows every song, similar to we did Salamanders 2 years ago, the Party Crashers last year. This will be the same thing, but according to who we booked with and stuff, this will be the best of all three of them. I'm not saying they are or aren't, but they think so. So just 30 seconds. Just so you know.
3, 2, 1.
You get the idea. It's a 2-minute video, so it'll be very high energy, dancing. Everybody will know every song. It'll be great. Friday night will be awesome. Rolling to Saturday, we've invited Cole Hartley back. He was with us 2 years ago. He did a very good job. So he's under contract. He's excited to come play Draper Days again. And then our headliner for Friday night is the Frontman. That's who we've contracted with. I just wanted to, talk about them for just really quick. When you hear the Frontman, you may not think, well, that's not a real recognizable name as they're constituted together, but they are some of the biggest names of 90s and 2000s of country music. When you hear the names, Little Texas and Lone Star and Restless Heart, those three bands, 3 frontmen, there's 3 lead singers that formed the group called the Frontman. So now what we get is 3 singers together. You see, this is kind of their tagline: 30 #1 hits between the different bands. So 30 #1 hits, 30 million records sold. It's a huge concert. They're doing fantastic. So Tim Rushlow, Larry Stewart, and Richie McDonald make up the Frontman. They all formed together from their individual bands. Got tons of hits. Everybody will know every song they play together. So just again, just a quick 30,
We got
40
time to get you educated, Mike.
Who are the Frontmen? Why don't we just show you? Join me as we introduce you to 3 iconic frontmen from 3 of the biggest multi-platinum selling country music supergroups in history. Be a part of this historic experience as Tim Rushlow, formerly of Little Texas, Larry Stewart of Restless Heart, and Richie McDonald, formerly of Lone Star, join forces on stage as one band to present one of the most incredible concert events that features over 3 decades of nothing but chart-topping hits.
Anyway, I don't want to take your time. It'll be it'll be a great concert that crossed over from country into pop and lots of hits of both genres. So just so you kind of were aware as we start releasing this to the public that you're in your circles and you talk about it. That's kind of our plan for entertainment. Just quickly, things are already filling up for the pickleball tournament. We got the kids' Draper bike race that's always full. The Draper Days 5K, which is several hundred people running every morning. The 3-on-3 basketball that we do at American Prep Academy. The all-night softball tournament. Lots of stuff that makes it a community event for Draper. Lots of stuff like that. A lot of those have sponsors already, so we're well underway. Any questions I can answer? Okay, well then let David talk about the other activities of Draper Days.
So hang up Fred.
Did you ask me a question?
No, we almost hung up on you.
Push, go back up to the top and put in, click on the Zoom link.
Oh, gotcha.
On the bottom, you want to keep that shared.
Up here?
Nope, go down to the Zoom tab on the bottom.
Yep, right there.
Click on. Yep, click it, and then click share in the center. Oh, up a little bit. Right there. And then just say share on the bottom of the blue button. Perfect.
You see that, Fred?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
Find that again. There we go. All right. Well, we've run through the week activities first. See if you have any questions. We've got the rodeo event on Friday and Saturday. That's 2 nights. On the same morning as the Saturday rodeo, Brett has the Strider bike race, the pickleball tournament, and the 5K race. That all takes place on Saturday the 12th. The horse pull takes place on Monday after the rodeo. The historic walking tour takes place on Tuesday. The farmers market as well on Tuesday. The heritage banquet takes place on Wednesday. Draper Ride on Wednesday as well, along with the movie at the amphitheater. The children's bike parade, the car show, takes place on Thursday. They share the park. Park activities on Friday. Line dancing on Friday. We have the concerts and the fireworks on Friday. Friday, as well as the night, is the all-night softball tournament. Saturday, we have the main parade. After the main parade, we have the firemen's breakfast, yoga in the park activities, including the pie baking contest. Bingo is Saturday as well. We have the concert Saturday, the 3-on-3 basketball tournament takes place Saturday morning, and then the fireworks as well. That's the week's activities for Draper Days. Any questions I can answer on that?
I have a question. Hey, this
Certainly.
looks good. It looks awesome. How are we doing on sponsors?
Great question. So sponsors right now, we've got about $12,000 in sponsorships. That represents 6 committed sponsorships as of right now. Our goal is about $110,000. So we've got a dozen sponsors that we're visiting with right now, and we're in the midst of closing them on their sponsorships. But currently, Fred, we're $12,000 paid out of the $110,000 goal.
Thank you. And I think we're probably ahead of the game compared to last year, aren't we, as far as getting out to the sponsors? sponsors.
Absolutely. You know, our business licensing official, Travis, sent out an email to every business licensee in the city of Draper. We got back a tremendous response with that. And our follow-up from all of last year's sponsorships. We have a cadre of committed sponsors in Draper that come back year after year. So we're really appreciative of them. But Kelly heads up the sponsorship drive, and she's doing a great job with it. We talk about Friday and Saturday's park activities. So these are the activities that are taking place in Draper Park. I'm going to let us look at a map, help us out visually. This is just highlighting the activities in Draper Park. Most activities in Draper Park. Now, Draper Park, the east and the west side. On the east side, the majority of Draper Park is taken up with the main stage and the audience seating. North of the creek, we've got the food court area. The handmade vendor area will have approximately 100 handmade vendors. South of the handmade vendors, the business vendor area will have approximately 75 business vendors in that area. They share this area with certain of the sponsors that want a 10 by 10 space. Our event headquarters with the police and fire is at the south parking lot. But in terms of activities are centered in the west parking lot. You'll notice the fireworks fallout zone takes up the majority of that area. This year with the fallout zone, it's a hard closure, meaning that we won't allow attendees to walk in that area. But this area will be closed, hard closed, fenced, closed to public access for the entire time, Friday and Saturday. But here are some of the activities. We've got the watermelon drop that's put on by Draper City staff. Face painting is offered by our Mayor's Youth Council, the Butterfly House, Foam Fun, our community stage. The community stage is a 20-foot by 20-foot stage under a 50-foot by 50-foot shade awning. The community stage highlights local community talent. So we've got a lot of great groups planned there. We've got 4 inflatables, a mini golf area, a meet and greet where you can meet a princess or a superhero. We've got the European bungee trampoline. We have a climbing wall. We have a flying chair ride. The game machine, petting zoo, and pony rides. These were all here last year. Train rides. Acrobatic circus, that's a new one this year. Commemorative photo booth, scales and tells, the BMX stunt show. Those are kind of the activities in the park. These activities, again, take place on Friday and Saturday. All these activities that you see are free. These yellow ones are free. Questions I can answer.
No questions is
No
good.
questions is good. Let's just look at a couple of those figures. With parade entries, we have a limit of 100 entries for our parade. Right now we're at about 35, which is great. Just at the beginning of March. Vendors, we've got about 100 spots available. 43 applications have been accepted. And those are applications that have been accepted and those fees have been paid. Business vendors, 21 applications have been accepted, so we're about a third full there. Our food vendors, we take a couple of dozen. Those food vendors fully accepted, all paid up. We're using the day barn again as a site for the meals for staff and volunteers. With the rodeo currently, we've got about 1,600 tickets sold there. And then we've got all of our off-site, off-street parking already scheduled and under contract. That gives you a quick update with Draper Days. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
It looks great. Thank you for all you do.
You're very welcome. We're excited.
Thank you, Steve. All right, we've got 5 minutes till the meeting. Should we take a little break?
Yes, please.
All right, the restrooms and whatnot. See you all later.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our meeting this evening. I apologize we're a few minutes behind. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance this evening by Mr. John Vike, our Finance Director. Please rise. All right. The next item on our agenda is an opportunity for general public comment. If you're here for an item that's for a public hearing, and I think we have two of those, 5A and 5B, we ask that you wait for those hearings to make your comment relevant to those two items. But if you have a general public comment, would like the council to hear you, is there anyone that would like to make a general public comment? Come on up. The rules are, since we've got one coming, give us your name and your address, and then our timer starts. The timer's the clock to my right. Everybody gets 3 minutes. You actually don't need to use them all, but you can. But you don't get 3 minutes and 1 second, so that's the way we work here. We're fair, but when the buzzer goes off, your turn will be over. But go ahead, Reed, and give us your name and address. Go ahead, sir.
Reed Gibby.
Reed, are you here on one of the items on public hearing, or are you for general public comment?
General comment.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I live, actually, right now we have two addresses. We're moving from Suncrest, and I mostly moved into 667 Vandelay Lane, which is just a little bit east of Pioneer. I'm getting a little bit better oriented down here. Anyway, I'm about a year late expressing appreciation to the council for the opportunity that I had of serving as a trustee to the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District. I decided not to reapply because I was going to get into some areas publicly that I did not want to taint the district in any way, because I was so impressed with the water district. Very well organized, very well operated. And I do appreciate the interest that Draper had. I saw Brian Maxfield regularly for the 4 years, except when we had meetings over the internet because of COVID. But I was very concerned about, also about a year ago, I was minding my own business at a caucus meeting when I got elected to be the chair of the caucus. And so I had to do a lot of political stuff since then. But anyway, I did not want to have the water district tarnished in any way. But I still have a couple minutes almost. Okay, one of the things that really concerned me was a lot of misinformation about carbon dioxide. It's not quite the evil that a lot of people are claiming. We probably not too many know that over the last 2 decades, the the United States has reduced the carbon emissions about 20%. Unfortunately, between India and China, that has been discounted dramatically, and so it hasn't done us much good. But carbon dioxide also is very important for life. The higher amount of carbon dioxide we have in the atmosphere, the more vegetation we actually have. And then the impact of carbon dioxide on temperature is actually logarithmic. That means the more you have, the less impact it has. And a lot of people don't understand that. Also, a lot of concern about my time's up. Anyway, thank you for your time.
You can come back again, Reed.
And
Thank
for
you.
your service.
Thank you, sir.
You'll hear from me again, probably more often.
Thank you for your service on the Water Commission, too. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a general public comment? All right, we'll go on from item number 3 to item number 4. Item number 4, and I will acknowledge that we have on the line Councilmember Lowry. Do we have Councilmember Green as well? All right, we got a full council, just 2 of them are cyber.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Item 4A is our consent items, and it's approval of our February 18th, 2025 City Council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent calendar.
All right, motion by Ms. Lowry to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Johnson. Any further discussion? All right, seeing Ms. Lowry, how do you vote? Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Fodry? Yes. Item's approved unanimously 5-0. That takes us to item number 5. 5A, our first item. This is a public hearing. It's ordinance number 1635. It's an ordinance of the Draper City amending the text of the Draper City General Plan to add the Draper Town Center Station Area Plan. And we're having our staff report by Todd Taylor. Todd, go ahead, sir.
Good evening and thank you. As indicated, this is the Town Center Station Area Plan. Sorry. By way of background, station area plans are now mandated by the state. This is through House Bill 462 that was adopted in 2022. It requires several components for stationary plans, that they plan for a half-mile radius around the station area platform, that they meet certain objectives, first and foremost being affordable housing, but also promote sustainable environment, access to opportunities, and transportation choice and connections. They also need to include a station area vision, a station area map, include an implementation plan, include public engagement, and they have to be adopted by December 31st of 2025. We've heard that WFRC's last meeting of the year will be in October, so that sort of moves up our timeline for the adoption of our stationary plans. And just for note, we've just begun our stationary planning for the Kimball's Lane and Crescent View and Draper Frontrunner Station areas. There are penalties for failure to comply with the state code, and that would be through our moderate income housing plan. If the state doesn't certify that we are achieving the progress on our moderate income housing strategies, they are able to withhold the certain transportation funding, and then there is a daily penalty for the first year that doubles for the second year that we're out of compliance. So the plan before you tonight is sort of the culmination of a process that began in 2022. The project team began with an existing conditions analysis and really understanding the station plan area around the Draper Town Center Station. This included identifying key sites, which are the city's city-owned Fitzgerald property just to the east of us here, and the UTA tracks parking lot. A potential third site being the IFA owned property. Significant public outreach occurred over this time period. There were 5 stakeholder committee meetings, and the stakeholder committee included property owners in the area, regional governmental groups, UTA, and residents. There were 3 open houses held, 2 online surveys, and several city council workshops. Based on initial feedback from the public outreach, the project team created 3 alternative concepts, which were then presented back to these groups. Feedback from those alternatives were then used to find areas of agreement amongst the stakeholders in the public and address areas of concern. This whole process then led to the development of the preferred concept, which is a plan that, while it doesn't satisfy everybody's desires, it attempts to balance the needs and concerns of the various groups, is consistent with the goals and principles that are identified in the document that were provided through public outreach, and hopefully does so in a way that fits Draper. So this is the preferred concept as it is shown in your plan. And then I'm going to zoom in on it as I walk through the major components of the plan. So starting here with the city-owned property, which is the Fitzgerald property south of Pioneer Road, and then just north, it ends just north of the Bainbridge development. It would have plaza areas, public plaza areas along Pioneer Road. Buildings would be up to 3 stories in height. There would be a mixed-use component with either multifamily or office above retail and restaurants along Pioneer, as well as a medium-sized community or arts center. Parking would be located within the block, screened by buildings. And then twin homes or townhomes would be along the southern side of the parking, as well as an open space and trail. The city-owned site does provide potential for inclusion of affordable workforce housing on it. Then moving up to the UTA owned property, which is south of Draper Parkway to the tracks and just west of the Parkstone neighborhood. So this site would have access off of Draper Parkway. It would be up to 5 stories of multifamily housing. Just as a note, initially UTA had requested more than 5 stories, and their minimum heights was 5 stories. Staff and the project team used the IFI silo and mill as a reference point in order to keep the height to a maximum of 5 stories. There would be mixed use along Draper Parkway. The plan integrates the canal trail along with an open space. Parking would include spaces for tracks users and would be either under structure or wrapped by the buildings. And then in order to address concerns brought up by the Parkstone neighborhood, there would be a 100-foot open space buffer immediately to the west of the neighborhood, and the height of the building immediately to the west would be reduced to 4 stories. Continuing on to the hatched area, this is the IFA and industrial properties. They would be up to 5 stories of mixed use, and there would be a step down along Pioneer Road. I apologize, my mouse keeps disappearing. And then just to the west of the cookie factory, those buildings would be up to 4 stories and start integrating into the town center, which is shown with this dashed boundary line. The crosshatched properties to the north are potential commercial redevelopment opportunities, and these would primarily be commercial with up to 3 stories in height and may include missing middle housing. And then the additional commercial properties out to the sort of edge of the Walmart neighborhood market center could be included in the plan area in the future. I just wanted to note that the heights that I mentioned are maximum heights. We've seen in other areas of the city that depending upon site constraints and market, those maximum heights may not be fully realized, and what comes in does have the potential to be lower. The plan then includes some renderings just to visualize one possible way that the site could be developed. I just wanted to caution that these renderings are conceptual and show that one possibility, but the buildings that come in will not look exactly the same or have the exact same architecture. So here we're looking at the sort of existing aerial looking to the west, and then showing the key sites being developed. We start with the UTA site along Draper Parkway, buildings stepping down the hillside, the integration of the canal trail and open space, the open space buffer next to Parkstone, and the reduced building heights. Connections are into the track station, and pedestrian improvements are made along Pioneer Road. And then on the city-owned property, we have the community or arts center, the plaza space along Pioneer Road, the mixed-use building, parking in the center, and then the twin homes along the rear. And then this rendering shows what could potentially happen in much longer-term future. We're thinking potentially 20 years out if IFA redevelops Cookie Factory, Canine Lifeline, even potentially the Kmart property. So these renderings are then eye-level views of three sites showing, again, what potentially this could look like. So the city-owned site, looking towards the IFA mill, having a large pedestrian plaza space. Buildings are stepped back. Community events could occur, farmers markets, music, food trucks. And then this is another view towards those buildings. Again, you can see the buildings being stepped back and the ground floor uses providing life and entertainment along the street. So then this is the UTA site from Draper Parkway looking to the south, east. We have the 3 stories along Draper Parkway with a step back to the additional height, the mixed use along the ground floor, and then as the buildings go down the hill, they step down with the grade. And then this is another view of those buildings. And then finally, this is within the UTA site along the Parkstone boundary looking north. So this visualizes what the 100-foot landscape buffer could look like with the 4-story decreased height buildings stepping down the hill again, and then another view of those buildings. The Planning Commission heard this item last Thursday and recommended approval to the City Council. They did include a note that the City Council consider the proposed densities and uses on the city site and the UTA site be more balanced with each other. As noted, this is a general plan amendment. The general plan is an advisory policy document. This is not adoption of zoning or a zoning map or text amendment. Upon adoption by the City Council, this plan would then go to WFRC for certification, and they will do it in consultation with UTA to certify that the plan meets the state's requirements. The city will then use the plan as a roadmap to start creating zoning ordinance text amendments, either a new zone or a modified existing zone, and adopt all the standards that are needed to implement the plan. This could include this will include the height restrictions, setbacks, building articulation that we've discussed, of making sure that the building massing isn't overly large for the area, parking requirements, and et cetera. The timeline after those zoning ordinance amendments are unknown, and it will really depend on the market, but that will then be the time that the city can then start looking into the development of its site as well as UTA. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions, as well as Jennifer Jastrzemski, and we also have our consultant here as well.
Any questions right now for Todd? All right, Todd, we'll probably have you back, I'm sure. All right, this is a public hearing. This is ordinance number 1635. I'm assuming there are a lot of you that would like to make public comment. Let me go over our public comment rules so everyone's on the same page. Like general public comment, everyone gets 3 minutes. I enforce it strictly, so if the buzzer goes off, your turn will be over. Also, we don't do applause. We don't do shows of emotion or excitement in the room. So let people make their comment. Let the council hear your comment. And we'll take your comments and listen to them. To start your time, if you'll come up to the microphone, give us your name and your address. That'll start the time, and we'll be. Who would like to be first? Come on up.
My name is Paul Skeen. My address is 1987 East, 12200 South, Draper. First, I'll just say I love the idea of redevelopment. I love the idea of creating a little walkable area, and kind of making that kind of a gathering spot. But the big issue that I'm struggling with as a resident and driving those paths daily is transportation. And I don't see anything on there about transportation other than as it pertains to light rail. I would say there's probably a lot of people in here who are maybe going to ask the same questions. When you drive around in rush hour particularly, some of these areas of these streets are at failure right now. The roundabout is very difficult. I know there are major plans in the future potentially for an intersection there and some widening, et cetera. And as I look through some of these drawings in detail, I'll just use that one as an example that we already looked at. It talked about bike lanes. I don't see any bike lanes on these one-lane roads. How is the transportation in this narrow little area going to be addressed? Is there anybody here that can talk to that? Who's in control of that? Is the city? Is the state? Is it UDOT? Those are some things I'd like to get addressed. I can't even imagine bringing in that density without major changes to the roads. So that's my comment.
Thank you, sir.
My questions.
Thank you, Mr. Skeen. Who would like to be next? Sorry, we'll take your questions as rhetorical. We may address them in our comments after, but just go ahead. You can ask them. We're not going to answer you, but go ahead. Give us your name and address.
Vivian Goodler, Parkstone.
Pull that down just a little bit, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. I have the same concerns with density. And when it comes to density, I want minimum density. I'm very concerned about the traffic also. But I'm mostly concerned with Parkstone because that's where I live. And I'm wondering if we can move some of those higher structures that are 4 stories to the west of Parkstone, if we could move those and put those condos and the twin homes in that area, because that will block our view and just not conducive with your number 2 goal. Your number 2 goal that you had was to respect the surrounding community. And I feel like putting those high structures in, that does not respect our surrounding community. one of the goals it had also was to preserve the heritage. And I think the heritage is what we have right now. And I think that that's why we need to have that structure to respect our community. The adoption of these concepts, I'm hoping can be changed, because I know that they're preferred, but I'm still thinking they can be tweaked, is what I'm hoping for. So when we're talking about minimum structures and maximum structures, of course we want minimum structures, but we want the structures that are the lowest to be next to the community, so that you are respecting our community, because we feel that the traffic is going to be a nightmare anyway, no matter where you put these. But if you put them up on 123rd, that will be more of a natural, whatever the word is, it would be more natural than putting them next to a community that's affected by those structures. So I'm hoping that you can have complementary structures by us, and not these 4 stories or 5-story buildings. That's what our community will want. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Who'd like to be next? Come on up, sir.
Good evening. My name is Shane Vogelsberg. I'm technically an outsider. My future address will be 1073 East, 12610 South in the Bainbridge development. Currently, we're living in South Jordan. But my comment was just, in relation to the Bainbridge development, getting clarity. When I was looking at the plans and the map specifically and the key, it looked like that there's that road that's going from the Pioneer Road down into the Bainbridge development, running north and south. And a lot of what attracted us to obviously this beautiful area, Draper and the Bainbridge community specifically, was just how clean and peaceful of a community it is, and also that it's very family friendly. As a father of 4 young children, ages 6 and under, my wife and I are just a little nervous about having that road running into the neighborhood, essentially causing the neighborhood to be like a through street, and traffic from the south, like both ways, traffic from the south wanting to go to the community center, or people in the community center area trying to go south, using that neighborhood as just a thoroughfare, which obviously presents a lot of risks with young kids wanting to play outside and everything. So understand that maybe there's regulations and everything with the housing needed, but even if it was open, as long as there wasn't a way for vehicles to get through, like if it's just trails or whatever, obviously that would preserve kind of the safety of the neighborhood and not have all this car traffic. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Who'd like to be next?
I'm Charlene Pineda, and I live in Parkstone also. One of my concerns in these plans you show here is right now Parkstone has a UTA, 12-foot UTA fence around the border of it next to the UTA station. And in all these renderings, I don't see a fence. There's a 100-foot landscape buffer, but our fence isn't there. And we're a private community. We take care of our own roads and snow plowing and everything like that. And we do not want that end of our community open to the public, especially this big public that will be there. And we, of course, all would like anywhere near where we are now, we want those buildings to be 3 stories, not 5. So, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who'd like to be next?
I'm Mark Clifford. I live on Parkstone Court. We moved here from out of state 2.5 years ago. We had no idea that you're planning a huge, massive people development with this area. It is upsetting. Our values of our houses are going to go down because of it. I would like to ask a question, and out of my ignorance, do you have similar plans for the Kimball Station area over there also like this? Anyhow, I'm upset. Right now, if you try to take and make a left turn onto or a right turn on Pioneer Road from our development in the morning or in the evening, it is hard, and there is no effort seemingly by anybody to do anything about it. And all I can envision, if you're going to add 10,000 more people, it's going to be worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to be next? Come on up.
Ron Smith.
Give us your address,
That's
Ron.
Mm-hmm.
where it's going to stay.
Give us your address, Ron.
1158 Parkstone Drive. I got a lot of things to say, and I've got to hurry up. On the Planning Commission, there was a lot of comment. They may pass it on a 3-0 vote, but the Planning Commission chair sitting where you're sitting had a lot of comment that we did. That 300, or that buffer, he's saying is 100, it scales out, according to their scale, 300 feet. So it shrunk 200 foot over the last couple of days. That's a real one. Anyway, where's the parking for the track riders that ride here in town? Where are they going to park? Doesn't show any parking. Now, right now they park a whole bunch of cars right along the front there on the city parking of the Fitzgerald property. Well, you can't have businesses there and have no parking. They'll have to go down inside there. I just want to let you know that. I developed Parkstone 28 years ago. 44 people living there. All right? Right now, the Ivory subdivision, Bainbridge, it doesn't have anybody in there. Scott Holmes, he's done a wonderful job of protecting them, but to us, we've lost 200 foot of landscaping already. We need a row on this, the planning chair said it, a row of townhomes up there, not apartments. There's no density requirement according to the development director the other night in the planning commission. So we can cut those out, put townhomes in there, nice ones that they have to buy, no renting. All right. Ooh.
You're doing good.
I'm just about there. Neighborhood integrity. That's the end of ours. Renters don't usually think much about it. Whenever you have people, you call for people, volunteers to do things in town. It isn't the renters. I want to let you know that. Anyway, look at that. Finished up on time.
Thank you, Ron. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a public comment?
Good evening. My name's Steve Taylor. I live in the Masters subdivision. I echo especially the concerns over traffic because of the challenges we already have. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of clarity to us citizens what is being considered there. The other concern that I have is the scale, the height of the buildings being proposed here, because I think that it's important to keep context here. The whole reason that this is being considered is because there's a track station here. I have the data that I can find online, and I've tried to get this directly from UTA, but they are not as yet forthcoming with this information to me, is this is the lowest ridership of any track station in the entire system. It is way, way lower than average, and yet we are affected 100% the same as any other track station, as though we were having a lot of ridership. This is also an end of line. From what I can gather, it's not likely, at least in the foreseeable future, that it will be extended. And so why is, and there's absolutely no, in the plan here, 5-story buildings especially, there is no consistency with the rest of this community. You point out, I've been to several open houses and everything and participated in the surveys, but it's interesting that you're going off of the one very small, tall, the silos there at IFA as the gauge for the height. And then going from that and then taking that and just expanding it over a huge area completely changes the look and the feel of our kind of a rural community that we moved to and have come to love. So it really changes this. And so I think you shouldn't say that it's trying to preserve this community. It's not. It's changing it. And so I just say that you need to consider the context that this is being driven by the track station with the lowest amount of ridership. It shouldn't apply at the same level. My recommendation as a citizen is that at a minimum we should have at the highest a 3-story apartment building, nothing more than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. No. Is there anyone else who would like to make a general public comment on this particular item?
My name's Louise Craig, and I live at 12002 Malona Drive in Draper. I've lived here for 20 years. I wanted to move to Draper too because it was a rural community, and I wasn't thrilled when tracks came in to begin with. And I do notice when the tracks go by, there's hardly anyone riding them, and I wonder why should we change our whole town because of something that's not being used very well. So I would just like to second that if we do have to do this by law, then if we could keep it down to 3 stories, it would be my preference. And I guess I have the question, can Draper City sue UTA or try to get the law changed? Is that a possibility? I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Reed Gibby, 667 Vandalay Lane. I was actually on the stockholders committee, and I was very impressed with their outreach attempt. But one of the problems that sometimes rises in urban rail systems is that they like to use an existing rail line. Even though it may not be the best choice, typically you like the stations to be closer towards downtown where you have a little higher population and better ridership. But in order to use the track, we end up with a station at this location. Philosophically, I'm a little nervous or concerned about the state making some laws and regulations that are kind of imposed on us. Anyway, I appreciate council. I'm glad I don't have to make a decision, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Reed. Anybody else? Going once, twice, sold. I'm just all right. Well, if there's no one else wants to make any other general public comments, we'll close the public comment period and bring this back to the council. This is item number 5A. It's ordinance number 1635. If I could, I would like to, if I could give you guys a little bit of the history of this whole situation and hopefully answer a few of your questions. This all started, and Todd, go back to the first slide if you would, please. If you've ever heard of central planning, if you've heard of that term before, this is a little bit of a taste of central planning. And this comes directly from your state legislature, House Bill 462. Go to a slide with the photograph of with the Fitzgerald property. So, no, that one. So in 2022, as has been over the last 5 years of this. Now, right now, I serve as the president of the League of Cities and Towns for this year. And thank heavens it's only 1 year, because I've been at that legislature every day almost for this whole session. And in 2022, they were on top of cities like they have been for the last 5 years, that cities are exclusively the problem with the housing crisis. I hear it. It doesn't matter which body, and it doesn't matter which branch. It is unequivocal that we city governments are the cause of this housing crisis. Now, you all know, we all know that that is not the 100% the truth. But, you know, I wish I lived in Malibu on the beach, but I don't. I live in this world. And in this world, our legislature, for whatever good or bad, they 100% believe, and in 2022, they believed it even more, that the cities were the cause of this housing crisis because of our zoning and our NIMBY backyard neighbors. I always remind them, you also are a NIMBY. You live in some city somewhere, and you don't want it by you. I believe me, ad nauseum, I've said this. But in 2022, the situation was this. The apartment boom was in full steam, if you'll recall. We didn't have a lot of apartments until then. But in 2022, it went crazy. And that was what we needed to have. We needed apartments everywhere. And we have them all over. That apartment boom, there was a developer that wanted to come on the entire Sherm-Fitzgerald parcel and put 5-story apartment buildings on the whole parcel. We as a council at the time, and myself as the mayor, I didn't like that. I didn't want them to disrupt that parcel south of Pioneer and fill it with massive apartment complex. Now, to the north is the UTA parcel. That parcel is not owned by us. It's owned by the government, and the quasi-government. UTA is the form of government that it is. But what happened was when they came in with the 5 stories, we said, hell no. We did, resoundingly. And what they did is they ran straight to the Utah legislature, and they drafted HB 462. Originally in the draft, city had no say inside the 1 mile circle. They had a minimum density requirement that would have been, a couple of you said you wanted a minimum height. They had a minimum density that would have been bigger than 5-story buildings in the whole 1 mile parcel. The UTA property would have been as tall as UTA wanted to go. That was where it was headed down the road. I drug our senator and one of our House members and another senator into Corner Canyon High School and let you guys have at them, which you did. I don't know if any of you were in that meeting, if you go back that time. And what came out of that was the negotiation that we would do a station area plan. And in the station area plan, the cities would get say. And so this is what we got. We got say, and this is the kind of say that we have. We collectively would rather it be single-family homes. I 100% unequivocally agree with you all, and I think every council member up here does. The reality of it is the deal we got was instead of all the apartments being on the Fitzgerald piece and the massive buildings on the UTA piece, we got single-family homes on the Fitzgerald piece, and we had the opportunity to buy, and I'll tell you it was dang expensive, the 5 acres of the top, which will ultimately be our community center and our city center. We got to buy that. We never had that option before. So out of this deal, we got say, and I'll grant you it ain't great say, but we got say. We got 5 acres, and we got the single-family homes in that part of the city. Now, I can tell you, one of you asked me, can you change the law? Which one of you, raise your hand, who asked me that question? Oh, you're a nice lady. I really like that question, and the answer to that question is, well, I've already said one hell for the night. So last Friday at about 5 p.m., Senate Bill 337 came out. I don't know if any of you have been paying attention. Senate Bill 337, as originally drafted and as came out on Friday afternoon, is a 100% brand new land authority that has 100% total land use authority for the state government. Any place that they deem a project area. Now, the bill didn't have a project area defined. It shocked me, right? It didn't say where. And it had a few vague parameters to it. But it was 100% loss of our state land use, of our local land use authority. Now, as a league, we said hell no, is what we said. And it's been being negotiated. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, these sneaky buggers dropping it in on Friday afternoon. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I've said a lot of words I can't say in public on this dais. But they did. And this is what they do. This is how they do it. They drop this crap in on Friday, 6 days before the end of the session, because they know it puts all the leverage on all of us. So this tool is a tool that the governor wants. The governor wants a tool to develop significant economic opportunities in Utah. And the governor wants to be able to go anywhere that there's a significant economic opportunity. And if the locals, they'll consult with the locals, but if the locals say no, then they go right over the top of them. So since we said no as a league, we've come back in this bill now in this first substitute, and there's a second sub. Is it out yet, Mr. Barker? It's coming.
Not as of 6 o'clock.
Bear with me. There's a method to my madness. Did it come out 6? Okay. There's another sub, so sub 2 to this bill. Right now, the bill in sub 1 gives back 100% of local land use authority. So we have one on that piece. We get back say and participation in all this business. But my point is, this HB 337 originally drafted is about as draconian of a bill as the state legislature has ever come up with. Now, because they can come up with it, they will continue to come up with this business. So right now, where 337 is, and the reason I bring it up is because if you don't think, I know you'll hear us say that the legislature is requiring us to do this. If you don't think they're capable of absolute central planning, be clear they 100% are. Now, with respect to the track station, a lot of you say it's low ridership. That is exactly what they want. They want it to become higher ridership. They want the density around the track station to make the investment worth it. Now, I mean, we could have that debate, but everybody knows that's not new information to us, nor is the traffic situation new. What we have to do is produce this plan. We think this is a pretty good plan. Now, it's a plan. It is not zoning, and it is not done. And what will happen is when someone comes in to build it, they're going to have to enter into an agreement with us to do it. But we have to show a plan, and we have to do a plan that's dense enough that it will pass. And we don't have an option. We have no choice. I wish I could tell you we did, but we don't. And we're on a clock. We have to get this one, and someone asked if we're doing a Kimball's Lane. We are. That's got to be done by the 25th of October, too. And we have one at the front runner station that'll be a little easier to get done because it's mostly a high-density place. But we have to do all three. We have to do it by the 25th of October of this year, and so that's why we're on it. We've drug our feet on this, to be quite honest with you. We've tried every iteration. Wanting what you want us to put on UTA property, we have no control over UTA. We can't put ownership property on UTA's property. That's up to them, and we don't have that power. So we put the ownership down on our parcel. But the thing you can take some comfort in, and I know it's not something you want to hear, but it is only a plan. It's a requirement. We make the plan. Somebody's going to have to come in, and developers will tell you, you can draw all kinds of pretty pictures, but if it doesn't pencil, they won't build it. And so just because we show big, dense buildings doesn't mean they'll ever get built in this spot because of where it is. But we still have to do this plan, and that's really the history of it. The UTA fence, that kind of stuff for sure can be done. But I just want you to know and understand as a council, if we had our ability to plan this community exactly how we wanted, it would not be this plan. But that ability to some degree has been taken from us by HB 462, and we're being watched, to be quite honest with you, by our legislative leaders, if you will, by other cities, because a whole bunch of other cities have already had to do this. We are not unique in this requirement, and everybody that has a transit stop is doing it. Most of them, it's turned out really well, and there's only a few that are actually under construction, and they weren't quite as big as you thought. But nonetheless, if that helps, that's the reason, that's the situation, the political reality that we are in. And this HB 337, it'll come out of the Senate, in my opinion. I don't know if it'll come out of the House. As a league, we've worked it to a position where it's fair to cities. So we've done our job for you in that regard. But if it doesn't make it through the House and it fails, it'll go into an interim study committee. And an interim study, that's when the shenanigans get afoot. That's when everybody has a lot of time to figure out how to really do it. And so that's sort of the environment we're in. I just want you to know. I can't take questions around, but I want to let the council talk. But I want you just to know that this is not your city council doing this to you because they want to. It's doing it because they really have to, and that's just it. So, council members, go ahead. I'll stop talking.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
May I just make one additional comment to your comments there? One of the things, and depending on obviously what happens with the bill that you're talking about, right now the way that LEDMA is worded is that if the city fails to adopt a plan this year in 2025, then we lose program funds from the Department of Transportation for all projects in the city until we come into compliance, and we will be assessed a penalty of $500 per day until the city comes into compliance.
This tactic of taking road money was inserted in another bill this year that hasn't yet passed, but they wanted to hold our capital city hostage for some particular things they wanted the capital city to do, and as the hook, if they didn't do it, they were going to take all of their B&C road money. Now, folks, if they take our B&C road money, we can't maintain the roads. Now, I'm not saying they're going to, but this threat gets tossed all around all the time, and my fear is someday it's going to stick on somebody. But what we have in the penalty is really that in a smaller $500 a day increment. But thank you, Tracy. Council members?
I would just reiterate what the mayor has said. This threat to local control is very real, and we have been fighting it for years. And it threatens all of you, and it threatens our community, because what you see is every year another overreach, another step in this direction to take over our ability to really make zoning decisions for our city. We're here to do the best we can for our citizens. We love town center. We have put code in place to protect town center that we worked really hard on. And what they've done is they've come in and they've just wiped it out completely. And what's terrifying about this Beehive Development Agency that the mayor was referring to is that it doesn't even go around necessarily a track stop. It's just anywhere in your city that they want to put a massive development. And what happens when we fight this, when they tell us what to do and we don't do it, is they just take our power away. The city is a subsidiary of the state. We are down here and they're up here, and we only have so much power comparatively. And so what we can do is do our best where we can, making sure that you have things like fences, looking where we can reduce the density a little bit where it's most proximal to your homes, and maybe moving it somewhere else. And like the mayor said, when we bought the land adjacent to City Hall, that was so we could have authority over it and zoning control over it. But we don't own the UTA land, and so our power there is just incredibly minimal. So I want you to know we hear you, and we see you, and we share your frustrations, and we are doing everything possible to keep the Draper that we all believe in.
Mr. Mayor. As has been said already, the city's worked really hard to satisfy these requirements that the state's given us. We've tried very hard to do things in the most positive way and push back where we could. But regardless of that, this is really hard. This is really hard because this is not what we see for Draper. The city center pedestrian area is the small bright spot that I can see in this whole plan. But this has been a really hard thing for this council and for the city staff to try to make something palatable in any way possible.
I'd just like to echo what's been said, and I appreciate everyone who came tonight and shared your comments. I think we've shared a lot of similar concerns, and we've gone back and forth with the city staff, and we've made tweaks to try to make it, I think, what is a really good plan. But again, this was forced upon us. It's not something that we chose to do, and we've worked really hard to come up with something that we think will, be a good place for citizens to come and gather. And even though, we don't want the density, I think that we can look for the good parts in this plan, and we'll continue to work on this in the future. And like the mayor said, it may look a little bit differently as the development actually happens, but we're working hard to find solutions to traffic. That's a big concern that I have as well. So, but we thank you again for coming tonight.
Mr. Green, Mr. Lauer, do you guys have a comment?
I do, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize for not being there in person. Flight got delayed. But again, I want to thank the mayor for all of his hard work. I think we're in a spot we have to do this. It's not what I want to do. I've been vocal about that. But I think we have to get it done, or else the consequences on the other side are too bad. And thank you, everyone, for coming and sharing your opinion. We love our community, and we love letting you guys join us in meetings. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add also, I echo the comments that the other council members have also made, and it is unfortunate that we're at this situation. I would like to note, though, that this is the plan that we're approving. Do appreciate everyone's efforts on this, but this doesn't mean that there'll be 5-story buildings. It also has to make sure that it works. And we, for sure, are very much aware of the traffic, and we'll do our best to make sure that whatever does go, that we can make sure that the traffic is mitigated the best. And also, whatever developer does take that project on, it has to make sense for them too. And so we do have other areas in our city that have unlimited story height that nothing has been developed there. So it's my hope that we'll be able to help maintain that town center in the best way we can, but we do have to follow what the state has mandated to us at this time. And I am really appreciative of all the public comment that's been shared, and I'm also very apologetic that I'm sorry that I'm not able to be there in person tonight. Thank you.
One of the good upsides to it, if there is one, is that we did get some really nice land, and we do have a place to do a town center now. We can incorporate it, make it nice. There is a positive there. We've got a great parcel of land that we can incorporate in everything we own, and hopefully build out a really high-end, good Draper City Town Center. So that is a plus, and we do have that opportunity. So,
Can I ask a question of Todd Taylor? Can you bring up the illustration again, the map of the actual buildings? Okay, so if we look at this piece immediately adjacent to Parkstone, would it be possible to reduce the height of those buildings down to 3 stories?
Yeah, I mean, Jennifer here, the council can make modifications to the plan and to these renderings, and if you want changes, I would recommend approving it subject to the changes, and then staff can go back to our consultant and have those changes made. You could request those buildings next to Parkstone to be reduced to 3 stories. I would caution reducing more than that, just because we do need the density on that UTA property.
Okay, I would like to request that they be reduced to 3 stories, and I'd also like to request that we add in the fence, the boundary fence. Is that possible?
Yeah, the language where it kind of talks about the open space buffer could also include references to fencing, and then when we actually get to the ordinance code writing portion, that's where we would actually stipulate types of fencing and what we actually want to see.
Okay, let's just make sure that it's maintained, because it's in existence now, so we just want to make sure it's not torn down as part of the future project. Is the fence UTA's fence, or is it Parkstone's fence?
It's probably UTA's fence, I'd imagine. Jen, if the reduction to go to 3 stories on those, is it okay with your request that if you have to add a story to one of these other buildings somewhere around to make the density, can you trade the density?
Yeah, I don't know if you necessarily have to
But
do
if you
that.
have to, I mean, just to get the plan over the goal line.
If it's absolutely necessary. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
we'd like to not have to do that, but if it's necessary.
Okay. Yeah, and we can look at that too. So.
Keep in mind that the way that the general plan is defined by state law, it says the general plan is an advisory guide for land use decisions, the impact of which shall be determined by ordinance. So you're really looking at an amendment to the general plan right now, and you have a concept in front of you, but as you want to get into these details, I mean, we're required by law to have density, and so how that's going to be defined in terms of like the density that you see, I think that's something that you could address.
It can move around in the ultimate development.
Exactly.
Okay. I just want to get over the goal line. I don't want it to, we can't fail on the plan.
I think what's been so frustrating is that the specifications from state legislature and from WFRC have been so unclear that we're fumbling in the dark as to what we actually can and cannot do. And yet we're required to submit with some certain amount of density. It puts us all in a really difficult position.
Let's get the plan approved by Wasatch Front Regional Council, meet our requirements, and then when applications come, we'll push back as hard as we can.
All right, so Ms. Lowry, is your motion to approve the plan with a look at lowering those buildings by, is it Parkstone?
Yes.
From 4 to 3 stories, if it works, and if you have to add some density somewhere else to make it work, that's how you adjust it, giving staff the latitude to make sure the plan meets the density. Is that your motion?
Yes. I also wanted to ask Jen, what about this concept of requiring some of it to be owned? Is there any way to put that into the plan, or is that something we'll do at a later date?
Yeah, I think the plan could either reference encouraging some owner-occupied units or containing a mix of owner and rental units, and then with the actual zoning code, we can then look at, are there certain parameters that we want to set?
Because our goal really is to have these be owned as much as possible.
Certainly on our side. Okay, so did I get your motion right?
Yes.
All right, is there a second to Ms. Lowry's motion?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Vaudry. All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ms. Lowry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Vaudry?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry? Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
All right, that item's approved unanimously 5-0. Next item is also a public hearing. It's 5B. It's ordinance 1636 and 1637. It's an ordinance amending the official land use map of Draper City for approximately 0.15 acres of property from community commercial to residential high density, and ordinance amending the official zoning map of Draper City for approximately 0.15 acres from A2 agricultural to RM2 residential multifamily, and approving a development agreement amendment for the property located at approximately 285 West River Chapel Road within Draper City, otherwise known as Urbana Land Use Amendment, Zoning Map Amendment, Development Agreement. We'll have a staff report by Mary Ann Pickering. Go ahead, Mary Ann.
Thank you. This is a vicinity map showing that small parcel. This is Lone Peak Parkway and appears 114th South. This is a detailed view of the property. Again, Lone Peak Parkway, River Chapel Road. The current land use designation on this one is community commercial, and the current zoning of that strip is A2 or agricultural. This is actually an application that you saw last summer. You approved a land use change, a zoning change, and a development agreement for this property. Since that was approved last summer, the applicant has worked with the church to the west and acquired a 16-foot strip of land to incorporate into their development. So this amendment before you tonight is changing the zoning of that about 6,500 square feet to match the rest of the development. The development agreement needs to be modified because they're changing the legal description. And then our engineering department also asked that they add a statement in the development agreement that the water system will be privately maintained. So there's no changes to the previously approved development of the site. Planning Commission did forward a positive recommendation to you on February 13th. And as a refresher, this is the concept plan. So that 16-foot strip of land is right here adjacent to their church property. So essentially these 5 or 6 homes over here will be 16 feet deeper. That's really the only change to this. This is the site. And then after the public hearing notice, I did get a call from one person who was asking for additional information on the project. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Sorry. All right. Is that the extent of your detailed report?
Yes, that is it.
All right. Any questions for Mary Ann?
I don't remember. Are these twin homes? What are these exactly?
These are single-family homes,
They're
and there's only
single-family
30
homes.
because they can only have the one access point, so that's the maximum they could do.
That's actually good, yeah.
Any idea on the price point?
I don't know. The applicant
never
is
said.
here.
Okay.
Jacob's here tonight.
All right. All right. So the applicant's here. You, sir, where's the applicant? You can address council if you want. You can wait till after public comment or whatever you want to do. All right. All right. This is a public hearing. It's ordinance 1636 and 1637 as prior read. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to make general public comment or public comment on these ordinances? All right. Seeing no public comment, I'll close the public comment period and bring it back to the council.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move we approve ordinance 1636 and 1637.
Motion by Ms. Vaudrey to approve ordinance 1636 and 1637. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Lowry. Any further discussion? All right, Ms. Vaudrey, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Lowry?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Lowry?
Mr. Lowry had to drop off, Mayor.
All right, he's off. Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
All right, items approved 4-0 with the majority voting members. That takes us over to an action item. It's ordinance number 1638. It's an ordinance approving the Hidden Canyon Estates Mercer Mountain Estates Development Agreement 11th Amendment for approximately 25.9 acres of property located at approximately 2635 East, 15040 South within Draper City. I have a staff report by Jennifer. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Great, thank you. So you guys saw 10th Amendment to this development agreement back in January. So to refresh your memory, Mercer Mountain is at the top of the mountain next to Hidden Canyon Estates. and Suncrest. Currently undeveloped, it will have single road access to Canyon Point Drive here. Kind of mixed land use designation, residential hillside low density, as well as a little bit that goes into an open space designation. It's all in the RR22 zoning, which is an old zoning district, but residential. So the development agreement for Mercer Mountain was approved in 2015. It allows 50 single-family lots of at least 12,000 square feet in size. This is the 11th Amendment. The 5th Amendment in 2018 allowed fill to be placed on the city's property adjacent to Canyon Point Road and Suncrest Drive. The 8th Amendment in 2019 modified road locations and land swaps between the city and property owner. And then the 10th Amendment that was done this year said that no additional fill would be added unless they came back to the city, but it then also modified the street cross-section, street slopes, improved some minor land swaps as well. So what's before you tonight? They are requesting to add additional fill to the city property, okay? And that includes slope easements that would accompany those fill areas. The applicant is proposing to provide $200,000 to the city in donation. The development agreement states that the area that the fill will be placed will be hydro-seeded after the fill is placed with a two-season growing warranty period to ensure that that hydro-seed does take seed. If any trails are impacted, they'll be restored or realigned, so we're not losing those trails. And then there would be some construction easements on city property adjacent to that fill area to accommodate actually putting that fill in. Any areas in that construction easement they would have to restore. And then the development agreement also talks about easements for the sewer line alignment as well as the detention basin. So this is the Fifth Amendment document that showed the cuts and fill areas originally. The Eighth Amendment here actually had the road realignment. So the road went like this. In the Eighth Amendment, they got approved to do this. It does increase the amount of cuts that they have to do, additional soil that they have to move from the property, but it was done to increase safety on the road and reducing the slope and grade of that roadway. So the 10th Amendment here, this map shows the slope easements that were approved with the 10th Amendment. So the pink is fill, the yellow is cut areas, and then this was the sewer line easement there. So this is the proposed map tonight. You can see that additional fill on the city property here that they would like to put in, some fine-tuning along the roadway as well, and then next to the detention basin, which is right here, and the sewer line that they'll be putting in, just an increase in that easement area for construction. And then I do have the differences in the square footages between what was approved in January with the 10th Amendment and what is proposed for the 11th Amendment. So these are the areas that are on the city properties. And that's it. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Jen?
So Jen, on that area where the fill is to be deposited, what is the end product there? At one point I had thought it was proposed as maybe trail access.
Yeah, so there is this piece here that's kind of closer to the road.
Yes.
That will be kind of more flat. So it has been talked about trail access going there. And our parks team has kind of looked at options for what we may end up doing with that. The majority of this would probably, well, the majority of this area would actually be graded as you're, kind of moving away from the road.
So is it meant to be like a parking area, like a trailhead? Maybe
The area that's kind of right by the entrance could potentially be used for that if the city wanted to, and Rhett may have more to add.
It had previously been shown on some plans for the option to have a trailhead there, yes. I know even just a few months ago, even in Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee, it was not a high priority, and if we did one in the area, it would most likely go to the north where there's property available, but it certainly could be and has been considered to be a trailhead in the past.
I do like the idea of having some parking there because we do hear from those residents often about all the traffic through the neighborhood. So some right there at the top does take them off of those neighborhood roads. I don't know.
All right, this is an action item. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to approve ordinance 1638.
All right. Motion by Ms. Lyer to approve ordinance 1638. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Johnson. Any further discussion? Ms. Lyer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Faudrey?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
All right, items approved 4-0 with the voting members present. Next item would be adjournment unless you have any council manager items that you would, anybody wants to bring.
If you'll indulge me, I just wanted to give a recognition to Linda and her communications team. Apparently they've won a platinum award by the AVA Digital Awards for the redesign of our website. And so a trophy will be on its way to Linda's office shortly. So congratulations to her, and especially increasing the functionality of our website.
Congratulations. Do you want to tell us what you did to win it?
Thank you. Definitely a team effort because it was a big collaboration among all the departments to get our content in a user-friendly format. So I'm glad that it's been received well by the community, and now we have this nice recognition as well. So appreciate it.
Excellent. Anybody have any items they want to bring up? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Mr. Green. Second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Vaudry. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.